Today on Playmakers, the Kansas women's basketball team tipped off the season with a spectacular performance. We will have all the highlights from Allen Fieldhouse. And from Halloween to high serves, one tennis showdown is getting scary competitive at the ATP Finals. And the Battle of the Witches, or maybe just our reporters. We've got two of our own going head-to-head debating this year's Volleyball National Championship contenders. I'm Emma Hale, your host for today, and welcome back to a spooky episode of Playmakers. Breaking news out of Lawrence, the Kansas Jayhawks 2026 recruiting class just took a major hit. Four-star safety J.J. Dunnigan announced his decommitment from KU earlier this week. The 6'2" Under Armour All-American was the top-ranked prospect in the class and is now reportedly eyeing Miami and Colorado. And if that wasn't enough to haunt KU fans, the weekend brought even more trouble on the field. Multiple Sunflower Showdowns took over Lawrence last week, and for KU fans, let's just say it was more trick than treat. Playmakers' Jack Kenna has the full recap from the weekend.
Definitely more trick, Emma. Hey, Kansas fans, close your eyes because this last weekend could not have gone any worse. Over the weekend, the Kansas Jayhawks hosted the Kansas State Wildcats not once, not twice, but 3 times and managed to fall short in all 3 matchups. Let's start in chronological order and head to the baseball diamond where the Jayhawks wrapped their fall season up with an exhibition game against in-state rivals at Hoagland Ballpark. And thankfully it was an exhibition because KU got pummeled, falling 16-2 in 11 innings. Kansas baseball has some time to figure it out. The Jayhawks will open up their season Friday, February 13th. Ooh, spooky. On the road against the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Friday night, just across the street, the action kept rolling, and for the first time in 12 years, Kansas volleyball played inside the historic Allen Fieldhouse. 7,550 people filled the Fieldhouse to watch a 5-set thriller between the two squads. The Jayhawks shot out to an early lead, taking the first set 25-14, but Kansas State's early jitters wore off, and they took the match, winning in 5 sets. Jovana Zelenovic led the Jayhawks with 16 kills, but 29 Kansas errors made it hard to battle back from. Kansas volleyball got a bounce-back win against Cincinnati yesterday and will be back in action tomorrow when they travel to Morgantown to take on West Virginia at noon. The next morning, the two schools took to the field to see which school would lift the Governor's Cup. And after forcing a first-play turnover and getting the first score, it was all doom and gloom for Kansas. A 42-17 whooping sent KU to 4-4 on the season and left fans wondering if this 17-game losing streak against K-State will ever end. Kansas will look to make it one step closer to a bowl game when they host Oklahoma State tomorrow at 3 p.m. So I apologize, Jayhawk fans. This past weekend wasn't a nightmare, it actually happened. But at least it can't get any worse. Emma, how are you doing after a weekend like that?
Yeah, Jack, it definitely wasn't the weekend Jayhawk fans were hoping for, but luckily there's something to smile about on the court. The Kansas women's basketball team officially hit the floor for their first exhibition game of the season on Wednesday night against Fort Hays State. Playmakers Kara Lyons joins us live in the studio with more.
Looks like the Fort Hays Tigers checked into the Stanley Hotel this Halloween week because they ran into a set of scary twin losses from the Jayhawk basketball teams. Both the men and women's teams hosted Fort Hays for their exhibition games and got a better idea of their abilities and the chemistry they share on the court. But let's take a closer look into the women's basketball team's victory.
I think the jitters that are involved in a first time to put on the uniform can impact anybody, whether they're a newcomer or a returner.
The Jayhawks got off to a slow start in the first quarter as they had a hard time finishing at the rim and shot only 42% from the field. Fort Hays did not seem to have this problem, especially in the first half, and kept the pressure on Kansas.
I think we just had to realize, what they're doing. They were obviously exhibitions, you can't scout. You don't know what they're going to run. It's all kind of a surprise.
Once the Jayhawks finally found their groove and figured it out, the team lit it up in Allen Fieldhouse, scoring 27 points off turnovers. Making her debut in the Crimson and Blue, Jalea Davis showed she can be a big contributor to the team this season. Davis finished with 29 points and 8 rebounds. Not bad for her first time in the Jayhawk uniform.
Being able to come out here with all the fans and just being able to play in the place where the basketball was made was just super exciting.
The Jayhawks got the job done, defeating the Tigers 90-58. It will be exciting to finally begin regular season play when they return to Allen Fieldhouse next Wednesday to compete against Kansas City. Emma, how spooky was this dominant win?
Honestly, terrifying. Thanks, Kara. It was a busy week all around for Kansas athletics, even on the course. Playmakers' Grant Shear has the latest from the KU cross country team, who are currently competing in the Big 12 championships right here in Lawrence. Grant, what do you have for us?
Emma, today's the day. I know all of you guys have the date marked on your calendars, and no, I'm not talking about Halloween. I'm talking about the Big 12 cross country championship taking place today here in Lawrence at Rimrock Farm. The meet is already underway with the men's 8K championship race that started at 10 a.m. and followed shortly by the women's 6K championship race that started at 11 a.m. Now, the Jayhawks look to compete in a stacked Big 12 conference championship. On the men's side, 4 teams are ranked inside the top 8 nationally, with Iowa State at 1, Oklahoma State at 2, Colorado at 5, and finally BYU at 8. But number 1 Iowa State will be starting their second team of 7 runners due to an ongoing investigation with the NCAA and the team. Running over to the women's side, once again, the Jayhawks find themselves in tough competition, having to run against 2 top 5 teams in the nation, number 1 BYU and number 5 West Virginia. But let's get all that spooky talk out of the way. While the teams might be tough, the Hawks have one trick up their sleeve. It's a home meet for the Jayhawks. Rimrock Farm in Lawrence is some familiar territory for the Crimson and Blue. This year's Big 12 championship course is a treacherous and historic cross-country trail featuring winding turns, steep hills, and its infamous 2 covered bridges. But if anyone can win this grueling course, it's the Jayhawks. The men's team is led by Yo Higuchi, who at his last run at Rimrock on August 30th was a staggering 18-minute and 30-second race, which was good enough to get him a 6th place finish. Leading the way for the women's squad is junior Tori Wingrove, who at her last race won the Rimrock Farm 6K with a speedy 17-minute and 56-second win. But that was last year. And hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Hello? Oh, the results are in? Perfect. Am I good to share with everyone? Alrighty, let's get it. On the men's side, our Jayhawks had a bit of a scary outing. The winner of the men's Big 12 championship was Brian Musa with a time of 22 minutes and 53 seconds. Our closest Jayhawk was Reagan Kybet with a time of 23 minutes and 41 seconds for a 26th place finish. Now, on to the women's results. Again, similar to the men's scary outing, the winner of the women's Big 12 championship 6K was Jane Hedengren with a time of 18 minutes and 29 seconds. The closest Jayhawk was in 25th place, and that was Immaculate Jametta with a time of 20 minutes and 14 seconds. Now that was a lot. I'm already winded, and I haven't even ran the 8K yet. So while I catch my breath, we bring you an inside look at the KU cheer team. Playmakers' Lindsey Ryan has the story. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Riley Ford. I'm on the KU cheer team. Come cheer a game with me.
How long does it usually take you to get ready for the games?
I've had a lot of practice and I have a routine down, so now it takes me 2 hours or an hour and a half.
What's your favorite sport to cheer?
I'd say basketball, just cause the environment is just unmatched.
Your favorite uniform that you guys wear?
I love our traditional blue KU.
We have an hour until game time, so we're just gonna warm up.
3, 5, 7, hold 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1, 3.
Thanks, Lindsay. Don't play any tricks on us. We will be back with the latest from the pro sports world right after this break.
From adversity, we rose. We made history and became pioneers, voyagers, champions, Jayhawks. And when our chant rises, haunting and hallowed, Jayhawks are telling the world what's near. Victory.
Breaking news out of Detroit, the Lions have locked in their defensive cornerstone for years to come. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson has agreed to a 4-year extension that will keep the 2023 Pro Bowler in Detroit through the end of the 2030 season. This marks the most guaranteed money for a non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. The temperature's dropping outside, but in college football, some coaches' seats are hotter than ever. Playmakers' Jacob Johnson takes a look at which coaches might be feeling the fire and taking a seat upon the coaching carousel.
Thanks, Emma. Right now, college football coaching positions have never been scarier. Today, we'll be taking a look at a coaching graveyard, that spooky patch of turf where dream jobs turn into nightmares and head coaches get buried alive under expectations and big buyouts that cost 5 times more than your college tuition. And trust me, guys, this year's carousel is pretty insane. 8 power conference jobs are already open, the most since 2022, and it's not even November yet. Here are some of the biggest names and surprises this season. First up in the graveyard is Billy Napier at Florida. The Gator Swamp swallowed him whole on October 19th after a mediocre 22-23 record over 3 years. No SEC title, no playoff push, just a headstone marked what if. This season was supposed to be Florida's big year, led by DJ Lagaway and a talented roster. But after a 3-4 start to the season, including a loss to South Florida, as well as Napier having a losing record against SEC opponents, yeah, this guy had to go. Next up, James Franklin, who was 1 game away from the national championship game last year, and the team was ranked second in preseason polls, yet he found himself unemployed. I really have nothing bad to say about this guy because he's still such a great coach, but results on the field when it counts matter. He was 4-21 against AP top 10 opponents during his time at Penn State, and after starting the season 3-0, they dropped a heartbreaker against Oregon and then got upset by winless UCLA and then lost to Northwestern as a 22-point favorite. This was a team who returned most of their roster from a season ago, and they had title aspirations, and with the results being what it was, they decided things had to change. Now, probably the biggest headliner of all is Brian Kelly at LSU. The preacher man from Notre Dame came down to the bayou to bring Louisianans to church and failed tremendously to have LSU competing at the level they deserve. The previous 3 coaches before him were able to bring titles, which is a hard accomplishment. But Kelly didn't even get a playoff appearance and not even an SEC championship. And in the 12-team playoff era, that's just not going to cut it. Kelly had the richest grave in the South with a $60 million buyout marked. You just suck. And with LSU being the best job in the country, one of the big favorites to take the helm is Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin. He's yet to sign an extension or verbally commit his allegiance to the Rebels like Matt Rhule in Nebraska or Dan Lanning with Oregon. Yet I believe we'll see him along with many other names tossed around for these top jobs. Maybe even a Nick Saban comeback. Not saying it's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. As for coaches who are still on the hot seat, don't be surprised if we see guys like Mike Norvell, Hugh Freeze, and the GOAT, Bill Belichick, looking for new jobs by the end of the season. Emma, some coaches' coffins are looking comfier than ever. How do you feel about this carousel?
That's a ride I'm glad I'll never have to ride on, Jacob. From coaches feeling the fire to players serving up scary good tennis, Playmakers' Colton Kinnan has the latest from the ATP Finals.
That's right, Emma. The longest sports season in the world is almost at its close. The ATP Finals begin on November 9th in Turin, Italy, hometown of world number 2 Jannik Sinner. Now, the ATP Finals brings together the top 8 men players to compete for the final trophy of the year, marking the end of the 2025 season before the tour heads off to Australia. Now, this year's field will look a lot different from last year's. Ben Shelton is virtually a lot to qualify after a strong second half of the season, including deep runs into multiple Masters events. Lorenzo Musetti, however, still has some work to do. The Italian star currently holds the final qualifying spot, but faces some pressure from Casper Ruud and Philip's Auger-Aliassime, both of whom came off excellent summer campaigns. Ruud and FAA each had Grand Slam semifinal appearances this year, and they look to overtake Musetti with a strong showing in Paris. Now, 38-year-old Novak Djokovic returns after taking last year off. The 6-time ATP Finals champion won the event in 2023. And for America, Taylor Fritz will represent the red, white, and gold as the 4th seed, while Alexander Zverev will enter as the number 3. Now, this will also be the first time since 2018 the tournament will not feature Daniil Medvedev or Stefanos Tsitsipas, signifying a new era in men's tennis. But the biggest storyline of this tournament will be the fight for world number 1. Sinner held the top spot for 56 consecutive weeks before Carlos Alcaraz overtook him in New York this past September. However, Alcaraz's early exit at the Paris Masters, Sinner can reclaim the year-end number 1 ranking by reaching the semifinals or better in Italy. Now, the ATP Finals feature a round-robin tournament featuring the top 4 players from 2 groups, and they'll both advance to the semifinals. Sinner, last year's champion, will look to become the first back-to-back winner since Novak Djokovic. Now, Emma, the tennis season is turning to ghost, but the NBA is rising from the crypt. What do you have for us?
Thanks, Colton, and you are exactly right. Something familiar is making a return to the screens this season. The NBA is back on NBC for the first time in over 2 decades. Playmakers' Eli Greenwald has more.
Thank you, Emma. After a 23-year hiatus that's been haunting us, the NBA on NBC has finally returned. Back in July, the NBA and NBC Studios agreed to an 11-year, $27 billion exclusive media rights deal that went into effect this season. The NBA and NBC will be live 100 times during the regular season on Sunday and Tuesday nights. There's been a ton of nostalgia that has come with the NBA's return to NBC. Hall of Famers Magic Johnson, Reggie Miller, Patrick Ewing, and even Michael Jordan all appeared in the teaser trailer on opening night. We also have seen the return of John Tesh's iconic Round Ball Rock theme song.
This is the NBA on NBC.
For a lot of older fans, this return brings back the memories of watching the NBA back in the 90s and early 2000s, where they witnessed the beginning of both the Lakers and Spurs dynasties, and of course, the 6 championships from the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Speaking of Michael Jordan, MJ is back in the game, as he is now a special contributor for the NBA on NBC with his new halftime series titled MJ Insights to Excellence. The first installment of the series featured an interview between Jordan and Mike Tirico. Tirico asked Michael if he misses the game, and this was MJ's response.
See, I wish I could take a magic pill, put on shorts, and go out and play the game of basketball today.
With the return of the NBA and NBC, we also saw the return of the classic pre- and post-game show, NBA Showtime, which will precede every game on NBC and Peacock, aside from Sunday Night Basketball, which will debut on February 1st. No matter how you feel about the NBA, there is no denying the history and nostalgia embedded in the classic broadcast that is the NBA on NBC. I don't know about you, Emma, but I love how this iconic broadcast has come back from the dead. It's been quite a thriller so far, wouldn't you say?
I would have to agree with you, Eli. We're taking a short break. Stay tuned, because when we come back, the sports world gets a little spookier.
For students searching for a way to stay active in an outdoorsy way, the City of Lawrence has bike trails running in every direction, and with the new bike share program, we can stay in shape as we tour the sights of our beautiful city. Clinton Lake is only a short 30-minute bike ride away from Daisy Hill and has the most incredible sunset location in all of Lawrence. Walking campus may give you the KU calves, but biking can give you the KU thighs. Bike Lawrence today.
Welcome back. We have reached week 10 of the college football season, and Playmakers Jack Jackson, Zach Newkirk, and Ben Voskov are here to break down the players who have been booed or busted. Boys.
Thanks, Emma, and welcome back to another weekly edition of Playmakers Roundtable. This week for Halloween, it's Boo or Bust, where we're going to be diving into some college football quarterbacks and if they have boomed or busted this year, meeting expectations, exceeding them, or falling below their expectations. I'm Zach Newkirk, joined by Ben Voskov, and we have Jack Jackson standing by, who's going to give us a film breakdown of each player. So let's jump right into it. Ben, who is your first boom?
My first boom, all right, I'm done with that, will be Vanderbilt's quarterback Diego Pavea. With the best start in decades, he's led the Commodores to a 7-1 record in his first few games of the season, and they're at their best start since 2008, and they have a real shot to go to the college football playoffs. They're currently 5th in the SEC, and I see them going very deep in the playoffs if they can even make it there. How about you? What's your pick?
Yeah, so my boom is going to be Cincinnati's quarterback, Brendan Sorsby. Now, since he was picked to finish 11th in the Big 12 at the start of the year, and now they're at the top. They're ranked 17th in the country and only one loss in a close game to Nebraska. I mean, Sorsby is accurate. He's good running the football, and he just makes plays. He has 20 touchdowns to just 1 interception to start the year, and he's top 10 in the country in QBR. So over to Jack. Jack, tell us what you see in the film with these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think both quarterbacks are playing spooky good right now. Here's a clip of Diego Pavia against LSU, and LSU is going to bring this blitz right here. Now, this motion causes every LSU defender to go to the right side of the field, which leaves nothing on the left. Pavia sees this, steps up in the pocket, and runs for a touchdown right here. Sees it, up, no one's there. Easy touchdown. And then we have your guy, Zach Sorsby, who kind of reminds me a lot of Max Duggan, and Cincinnati reminds me of this TCU team. They're just going to run 2 posts. Easy man beater, because Sorsby sees its man, and he's going to see this. Beautiful deep ball by Sorsby right there. Touchdown, strike up the band, and they ended up blowing out Iowa State in that game. Now, Ben, who is your bust?
Yeah, my bust is got to be Nico Imaliava. He tried to strong-arm the Tennessee Volunteers to give him $4 million a year in the offseason, and instead he transferred to UCLA and got $1.2 to $1.5 million playing for the Bruins. He started 0-4 with 2 losses to UNLV and New Mexico State, both Group of 5 teams, and he has not been able to do anything for the Bruins over there. They did get a win over number 7th ranked Penn State at the time, but they got embarrassed last weekend with a 56-6 loss at Indiana, and he has not looked good at all. So that's definitely my bust. How about you?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to have to go with Lenoris Sellers, the quarterback of South Carolina. Now, there's been so much hype around Sellers since he started, and South Carolina was even ranked 13th to start the season. And, you know, he's got an impressive arm. He's a good athlete, but he's just not doing it. I mean, the team is off to a slow start at 3-5. People are blaming Sellers for not playing well late in the games. And, you know, it reminds me a little bit of Anthony Richardson, you know, the strong arm, big athletic QB, but I just don't know if it's going to pan out. You know, he's made some impressive plays and should be given more time, but overall he's just not been what people thought he would be. You know, he was in Heisman conversations, but I just think he's been more of a mediocre starter. So, Jack, what do you see with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, just 2 guys who have not lived up to expectations. UCLA gave Nico a lot of money. And here's a clip, first week of the season against Utah. They're going to run just a little wide receiver screen down the line. Now, Nico should know, because it's a screen, that he's going to get pressure. However, he backs up and throws this off his back foot to nobody except the Utah linebacker. And now Lenoris Sellers, he's a different story. He shows signs every now and then, but he fumbled against LSU. And here's a clip of him against Alabama doing the same thing. It seems like when the moment gets big, he seems to crumble. And they have a chance to win it here. And right here, you'll see the ball gets ripped out right there. And Bama actually goes on to score and win that game. Those are their booms and busts. Emma, who's your boom and bust this year in college football?
You know, guys, I'll let you handle the football. I'll admit I'm more locked in on the volleyball world right now. Playmakers Emily Sutter and Addie Rabel are going head-to-head debating this season's volleyball national championship contenders. Ladies, let's see who casts the strongest spell.
Thanks, Emma. The college volleyball season is ramping up, and there's no doubt that we have a few top teams that will be contenders for the national title. I have Addie Rabel here with me, and we're keeping our eyes on 2 teams that have been neck and neck, number 1 Nebraska and number 2 Texas. For the title, I'm taking Texas, and Addie is taking Nebraska. So Addie, start us off. Why the Big Red?
I mean, the Cornhuskers are 20-0 and began conference play with 11 sweeps over Big Ten opponents. They play in the hardest conference in the Big Ten with Wisconsin, Penn State, Minnesota, and more. They have 2 of the best middle blockers in the country with Andy Jackson and Rebecca Alec. I mean, those 2 at the net, I mean, no opponent's offense can even do anything with those 2 blocking. And you cannot mention Nebraska without mentioning 3-year starters, Harper Murray and Bergen Riley. They are just absolutely crazy. That duo is ridiculous. Nebraska hasn't lost a single set since September. since September. I mean, that is wild. They have 4 AVCA All-Americans on the watch list, and Nebraska leads the nation in hitting percentage with .335. They've recorded 953 kills in just 66 sets. The last time Nebraska won the national championship was actually in 2017 when it was in Kansas City. And the tournament will be back in KC this year. The stars are really just aligning. And Emily, I'm kind of confused here on why you took Texas, considering you are from Nebraska.
You know, I got to give you credit. Nebraska is really good, but there's something special about this Texas offense. I know you mentioned Nebraska's blocking, but Texas, their offense is absolutely insane. They lead in kills per set with almost 15, and Nebraska only has 14.4. Texas's schedule is also a little bit more difficult, where they played 9 ranked teams where Nebraska's only played 7. With this offense, though, they also lead with assists per set. So their setter, Ellis Swindle, has 564 assists already in this season, and they have some key freshmen already making some impacts, hitting on the outside. Abby Vanderwall, Carrie Spears. Carrie Spears is already on the AVCA National Player of the Year watch list and has already been the SEC Freshman of the Week 5 times. 5 times, that's a lot. Her season high is 18 kills, and Vanderwall, she's already had 21 kills this season. But with the hitting, we also can't forget about All-American from Pitt, Tori Stafford. She leads with 277 kills. Harper Murray's the only one on the Nebraska team that comes kind of close with 225. But it's just not enough. And I have to give Jerry Elliott, their coach, a little bit of credit. He led the team back-to-back in 2022 and 2023. All but 4 of his recruiting classes have been ranked nationally, and they swept Nebraska 3-0 in 2023. Their hitting is going to be too much for Nebraska's liberos, especially because they've been switching it out. DBK is trying to figure it out, but I think it's a little bit too much for the Cornhuskers to handle. Addie, you made some great points. I love Nebraska too. They're a very great team, but I got to stand on business and take Texas for this one. We'll see how the rest of the season goes for both teams. Emma, which team are you taking, Longhorns or the Big Red?
Thanks, ladies. I'll say I'm rocking with Nebraska. They have been dominant all season and have the talent to go all the way. Now it's time for the top 5 plays, or should I say, the top 5 trick plays, brought to you by Playmakers Tyler Brewer.
That's right, Emma. Emphasis on the trick, because there are no treats in this week's top 5, just some spooky good highlights. Here's number 5 on our top 5 trick plays of the week. And it's going to start off Alabama and Georgia from a couple weeks ago. It's Ty Simpson at quarterback for the Crimson Tide. He's going to check the lineup and go under center. Now, if you look at the top of the screen, that's a 300-pound lineman, Caden Proctor, at the top, and he's going to catch this pass and rumble on down past the first down sticks. He's still moving to the pylon. Now they're going to mark him short. He gets the first down, but what a play that is. Here's the replay. Nothing scary to wake up to on this Halloween morning than Caden Proctor running through everyone, including his own teammates, trying to get to the end zone. Alabama would go on to win that game. Over now to the number 4 spot, it's Washington versus Illinois. Late in the first half here, Washington looking to get a lead going into halftime, and they're going to fire it, a lateral to the receiver. That is Jonah Coleman, in the end zone for the touchdown. The Huskies would go on to win that ball game and upset number 23 Illinois. Moving on now to number 3. The Savannah Bananas and the Auburn Tigers. It's a line drive to center field. Bristol Clark between the legs. What a grab from him. The first trick play of the game for the Tigers, maybe even of all time. The team goes and celebrates with him. Let's check the replay out. Wow, the banana on this kid to attempt that catch could have been the cup check of a lifetime. Instead, it's a great highlight. Number 2, we have Jacksonville Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs from Monday Night Football a couple weeks ago. Trevor Lawrence under center, trips over his own lineman. Play looks dead, but he gets up, rolls to his left, dives across the goal line. It's a touchdown for Jacksonville with just 23 seconds left in the game. Jacksonville fans were excited there. Look at this blocking from the lineman. Everybody trying to get to Trevor Lawrence except for Chris Jones, but no one could, and he dives across. But the number 1 play of the week, it's from the Jets-Bengals game this past Sunday. Fields tossed it over to Breece Hall. He pump fakes the pass, pulls it down, throws it anyways, and it's a touchdown to his guy in the end zone. That's Taylor. Let's look at it one more time here. Breece Hall is going to pump fake the pass, pull it down, then throws it anyways. He would go on to admit that the coaches gave him the opportunity to either run it or pass it on that play, and he made a great decision there. Well, Emma,
Hopefully those trick plays were enough of a treat to wrap up the show with. Which one was your favorite?
Ooh, man, that big boy running it in on the first play doesn't get much better than that, does it? That's all for this week's special Halloween edition of Playmakers. Be sure to follow us on social media at PlaymakersKU to find all our content on the sports world as we see it. Stay tuned for KUJH on Thursdays and Run It Back on Monday afternoons and early Friday mornings for all the game results happening over the weekend. Playmakers will be back here live in the studio next Friday. And remember, it's not about the game you played, but the plays you made. Rock chalk, and we'll see you next time.